sometimes you get more informed organization around that. And that's part of the reason I really love lifting heavy weights, is because when I go to do, let's say, a deadlift or a squat, I have to be very, very well organized in order to do the movement. So there's that challenge sort of joins. It creates a joining and a knitting together of the musculature, of the whole system to organize for a challenging movement. So I think that there is an element of challenge as long as it's pain-free, as long as it's organized in a way that doesn't elicit discomfort.
So there's the question, because how do we in a awareness through movement lesson, we're constantly saying use pain as the feedback, use pain as information that something is not quite organized, and so you want to find another way to do it. But Feldenkrais, according to Sonia, and really according to even what you just said, you lift weights. It's not enough by itself for us to feel that we can have an active lifestyle. We need to actually engage in some kind of work for the muscles. Sherry, you want to talk about that a little bit?
You know, and it makes me think about, really, we need cues before pain, right? And that is developed through the Feldenkrais level of awareness that one develops, so that you don't have to get into pain to avoid it. I mean, that would be the ideal. You know, when you see the light turning yellow from a block away, you know you're going to have to stop. So you don't want to have the pain and then go, oh, I should have stopped, but I feel the pain now. So I think the more subtle cues that we can notice, the better. So, for example, when I was recovering from my back injury and the chronic pain that resulted from that, I would, you know, I got to a point where I could go for walks and not feel pain. And I'm like, oh, this feels really good. And then the next day I'd have pain. And I'm like, what did I do? I didn't do anything that I thought bothered me. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it was this kind of this final awakening that took me really away from the chronic pain completely. Was one day I did this hike. And it was a weekend outing, went with friends. Everybody was going for a hike up to the top of the mountain. And for the first time in my life, I said to myself, and then I said to them, you guys go. I don't need to be with you. I need to do this at my very own pace, which turned out to be extremely interesting and extremely forgiving of myself without a goal in mind. And so I did this hike. It was Labor Day weekend, so there were lots of people from Anchorage on the trail. I met people passed me. I met them when they came back down. I was still on the trail going little by little. And what I found was that as soon as I noticed a different sensation, and I still can't even put a finger on what that was, it was so subtle, I would stop and just stand on both feet and pause just for a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, it depended. And finally, over time, I actually made it to the top in doing this, and had a great time. But I was totally taking any expectation of myself out of the picture, and then being really critical of the subtlest change. And in that way, I made it to the top. I made it back down. I got in my tent after dark. And I said to myself, well, I'm okay now, but I'm always okay the day of the walk. Tomorrow will be the test. And I woke up the next morning and I didn't have any pain. And this was an extensive hike, way bigger than just an ordinary walk. And so I can't really explain what happened, but that is like a landmark for me. And I try to explain that to people when I'm helping them through something in working with them, that the sensations can be so subtle that are like precursors to the pain. And how do you notice that? And I think that really can change things when you develop that level of sensitivity, even if, like, I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. I just felt like I'm doing something different. And so much of what we learn in athletics is how to brace ourselves and how to work one part of the body against the other, which is exactly the opposite of every part of ourselves contributing to the movement so that no one part has to work too hard. So it's just really interesting how we have to develop new skills in order to really change how we organize ourselves, how we use ourselves, and find that baseline of what's it like to really not have tension in the body. Because we all have tension, right? We talk about changing the resting length of muscles. You know, every single one of us, we lie down on the floor for a lesson. And in the beginning, there's usually some level of tension. That's why it can change through the course of the lesson, is because, and we lay there and we think we're resting. We lay in bed and we think we're resting. And then people come to me after they've learned how to, like, not to have less pain during the day because they're moving better. And they'll say, well, now I'm having my pain in the morning when I wake up. It's like, hey, let's explore. What are you doing in your sleep? And people are doing crazy levels of tension in their sleep. And then we work on how to change how you're sleeping so that you dissolve that tension. And when you're resting, you actually really are resting.